What if I told you, you've already touched the timeline where everything works, where you don't just survive, you thrive, where you don't just dream, you live, where clarity replaces confusion, flow replaces friction, and you wake up knowing exactly who you are. But here's the glitch. You didn't stay, not because it wasn't real, not because you weren't ready, but because the signal wasn't strong enough. Not yet. The quantum field doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't respond to your intentions, your mood boards, your vision boards soaked in hope. It listens for resonance. It scans for coherence. It aligns to the version of you who speaks without contradiction, not just with words, but with vibration. Right now, you are broadcasting. Right now, you are being heard by reality itself, not the version of reality you see with your eyes, but the deeper, layered, multidimensional tapestry where all timelines exist simultaneously, where infinite versions of you already live out every choice you didn't make. And that's not poetic theory. That's quantum fact. Every potential future already exists. But here's the catch. You only collapse the one you believe in. So ask yourself, what have you been believing in without realizing it? Because belief isn't in your thoughts. It's in your reflexes, in your silence, in your autopilot, in the version of you who shows up when no one is watching. That's the one collapsing your life right now. The version of you that tolerates lack, that entertains fear, that keeps rehearsing the same emotional loop and calling it fate. But what if that loop isn't fate? What if it's just the echo of an identity you forgot to stop reinforcing? Because here's the secret nobody teaches. You are not manifesting things. You are manifesting timelines. Timelines built not from goals, but from frequency. Timelines where the version of you who has already made the leap is not separate, but silently calling you forward. And the field? It's not blocking you. It's just mirroring the you you've been agreeing to be. Not on purpose, not with shame, but with familiarity. Because the nervous system doesn't seek joy. It seeks the known. And your known might be what's keeping you stuck. So let's stop here. Let's pause, not to reflect, to observe. Who are you when no one is around? What are the silent beliefs scripting your life? Do they sound like, I have to earn it first? People like me don't get that far. It's safer to wait than to risk. It's too late. Then let me tell you something true. The version of you who already lives your dream reality has none of those scripts running. Because that version didn't achieve more. They became different. And through that difference, the field restructured. This is quantum law. The observer collapses the wave. The wave becomes the particle. The particle becomes your reality. And guess what collapses the observer? A choice. Not a feeling, not a mantra. A cellular decision so deep, your old self doesn't survive it. That's the real jump. Not forward, but inward. Not into fantasy, but out of illusion. Because the biggest illusion you've ever believed is that change takes time. It doesn't. It takes frequency. It takes becoming a new observer. And most importantly, it takes being willing to let the old you die. Yes, die, not with pain, with permission. A sacred ending, an honest funeral, for the you who had to hustle to feel worthy, for the you who postponed joy until the world approved, for the you who shrank every time you saw someone shining. Because none of that is you. It's the avatar you built to survive the noise, to navigate the matrix of doubt and conditioning, and inherited fear. But you don't live there anymore. That city is crumbling. That architecture is outdated. That map leads nowhere. And if you're hearing this, it's because the field is asking, are you finally ready to become who you already are? Because that version, the one who walks in peace, speaks in power, and moves from knowing, they've never left you. You just kept tuning them out, with worry, with waiting, with the subtle seduction of old programming pretending to be truth. But none of it is truth. It's all entanglement. And the field doesn't lie. You've already felt it. That moment you stood taller. That time you said no without guilt. That day you laughed like nothing was missing. That was your future self breaking through the static. But you called it a fluke. You called it luck. You didn't stay long enough to let the new identity stabilize. So here's what we do now. We make it conscious. We name it. We shift the weight of the signal, not with force, but with decision. Because this isn't about trying harder. This is about trying differently. Step 1. Locate the anchor. What identity are you currently living through? Not what you want. What you reinforce. What stories still run your choices? I need to prove myself. I need more time. I'll do it when I'm ready. Collapse them. Not in anger, in truth. Those were survival codes. They got you here. But they can't take you further. Step 2. Collapse the timeline. Not by escaping, by outgrowing. Look at the version of you who loops, who settles, who holds back, who bites their tongue and calls it humility. And say, I see you, but I no longer choose you. Step 3. Choose the new observer. Not hypothetically, energetically. Stand, right now, as the version of you who already lives the life you dream about. Not for 5 minutes, in meditation. For every second you can. And yes, the world won't reflect it immediately. That's the trap. People will still treat you like the old you. The bank account may still look the same. The job may still feel off. But you're not waiting for evidence. You are the evidence. You're not reacting to life. You are directing it. With frequency. Not because you're powerful, but because you're precise. And the quantum field doesn't reward desire. It reflects coherence. So here's your job now. Don't argue with the past. Don't beg the universe. Don't look for signs. Be the sign. Be the frequency you've been waiting for. Because the future is not created. It is tuned into. And you're the tuner. You're the signal. You're the station. And the version of you who already knows this? They've been waiting. Not in the future, but in the field. Not in time. In entanglement. So now you're here. Not where you started. Not where you thought you'd end up. But here. In the space between who you've been and who you're becoming. This is the sacred void, the place most people run from, because it feels empty, because it feels unfamiliar, because it's the moment after collapse, but before arrival. But hear me clearly, this isn't emptiness. This is recalibration. You are not lost. You're unlearning gravity. The old self had mass. It was heavy. It pulled everything into orbit around its fear, its doubt, its rituals of delay. But you cut the cord. You collapsed the observer who couldn't carry your future. And now the field is reorganizing. But here's the part no one warned you about. That old frequency? It fights for its life. It comes back as doubt, as sadness, as overthinking, as suddenly craving the things you swore you'd outgrown. That's not regression. That's resistance. Not from you, from the loop. Because every identity has an inertia, and yours is breaking it. So when you feel like quitting, don't. You're not failing. You're shedding. And the discomfort? That's just your nervous system trying to negotiate with a reality you're no longer available for. Let it negotiate. You don't have to answer. Your job is not to feel perfect. Your job is to feel aware, to recognize when the old self creeps in, and to stop feeding it. Because every time you respond to life from the new identity, even if it's shaky, even if it's small, you shift the signal. And that signal changes everything. Let me explain. Reality isn't physical, it's perceptual, and your perception is filtered through your identity, which means if you change the identity, you change the lens. And if you change the lens, you change what shows up, not because you chased it, but because you tuned into it. This is what they meant by as within, so without, not mysticism, mechanics, the mechanics of frequency. So how do you stabilize? How do you make sure you don't jump back into the old story? You live from memory, not past memory. Future memory, memory of the self you are becoming. The one that already lives inside you is code. That self has preferences. That self has standards. That self says no to things the old you begged for. So ask yourself this. What does the version of me who already lives in peace no longer tolerate? What does the version of me who has already succeeded walk away from effortlessly? What thoughts no longer survive in their inner world? And start removing them from yours. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're finally aligned. Alignment is not about effort. It's about integrity. Integrity with the version of you who's been whispering all along. We don't do that anymore. We don't explain ourselves anymore. We don't chase. We choose. This is where the real work begins. Not in the leap, but in the landing. Because the leap is exciting. The leap is cinematic. The leap is spiritual fireworks. But the landing? That's slow. That's quiet. That's devotional. And most people sabotage here. They get addicted to jumping. They start chasing new versions of themselves without integrating the last one. They call it growth, but it's really avoidance. You don't need another jump. You need to anchor the one you already made. So here's how. Every morning, ask yourself, who is waking up today? Is it the version of me who doubts, or the one who already knows? And when the old self answers first, as it often does, you gently interrupt, not with judgment, with remembrance. You remind the field, I don't collapse from that observer anymore. And when life throws contrast, because it will, you respond as the one you chose to become, not perfectly, but consistently. Consistency isn't repetition. It's integrity with identity. And that integrity is what tells the field, this timeline is real. The quantum doesn't care about what you want. It cares about what you embody. So if you want to live in freedom, you can't keep responding like a prisoner. If you want love, you can't keep choosing from fear. If you want expansion, you can't keep negotiating with limitation. You have to become so coherent in your vibration that the field has no choice but to reflect the you've been showing up as. Because that's the law, not of attraction, of alignment. And when that alignment stabilizes, everything changes. People will notice, but they won't know why. They'll say, you seem lighter. You're glowing. Something's different about you. It's not magic. It's mathematics. Because coherence is visible. It's audible. It's contagious. And here's the beautiful irony. When you stop chasing your dream life, it starts finding you. Not because you gave up, but because you finally matched it. That's what manifestation really is. Not calling something in, but calling something forth. From within. Because the real you, the you who doesn't shrink, who doesn't explain, who doesn't dim their light for comfort, that you has always been there, waiting for permission to come online. And the field? It's just been waiting for you to say, I'm ready to stop playing pretend. So let me leave you with this. You are not here to try. You are not here to learn. You are here to remember. To remember the part of you that already knows how powerful you are. To remember that you don't need to beg reality to change. You only need to decide who's collapsing the wave. So now ask yourself, what version of me is collapsing this moment? And if it's not the one you chose, pause, breathe, shift. Do it again, and again, and again, until the old self stops knocking, until the new self answers automatically. That's not spiritual work. That's quantum precision. You're not chasing a life anymore. You're broadcasting one. And every breath you take is tuning the signal. So tune wisely, tune intentionally. And if you ever forget, come back here. Not to this video, to this identity. The one who knew, before anyone told you, that your frequency is the key. Now go live in coherence. Let the field adjust. Let the world catch up. You don't have to wait. You're already there. Because you are never becoming something new. You are just remembering who you already are.